folks, welcome back to SouthAfrica. This is Chris once again. Hello, folks, and welcome back to Chris Wyatt Africa. It is Wednesday, the 9th of March, 2022. Time once again after a 3-week hiatus for nako, the Call of Africa. No, nako doesn't mean the Call of Africa. That's a subtitle. Nako means it's time. Hey, folks, we're going to rename this show the Dumo and Chris program, the Dumo and Chris Hour, because Koketso works like a demon. He hasn't been available. And then this other guy, he's never shown up once. He's getting all this free advertising. It's not like hitting an audience of 300,000, so it's not like we feel bad about it. But, folks, let's welcome back Dumo Denga to the program. Tonight it's our show. Dumo, how's it going, brother?
I am good, Chris. It's always great to be back. And, looking forward to having a great discussion today.
Well, yeah, there's just so many things to talk about. I suppose one of them we should talk about right away is I don't think we've talked about this because it unfolded as I was in Orlando, and afterwards the comedy hour, which is really ain't comedy, but it makes for hilarious entertainment if you have a good sense of humor. And that's the leader of the economic freedom fighters, Julius Malema, and his lovely performance in the equality court there. That was, I mean, I'm kind of flabbergasted. What do you say? I mean, and so News 24, the propaganda machine that is, comes out and says, "Oh, I'll be president one day." That's the story you took from his testimony? Anyway, any comments or thoughts on that nonsense?
Right. I think with that case, a lot was revealed about Malema. I think Malema thought he could just rock up there and make some sort of platform for himself. Where he could just, spew his communist ideology and everything like that. And I think Mark Oppenheimer, because remember, he cross-examined him for 2 days, which I think was really interesting. The first day, I think Mark kind of let Malema win in the sense that he allowed Malema to gain confidence and so forth. And then on day 2, that's when we really saw most of the stuff coming out. I think the big one was when Malema said that he's not going to rule out calling for the slaughter of white people, and that for me was a massive one, because at least in that moment, I think people saw how the evil intentions that Malema has. But the mainstream media, oh my word, the mainstream media, lamestream media, whatever you want to call it. These guys, I was disappointed in their coverage because they only covered those grand statements that Malema made, like, "Oh, I had a lot of pain as a kid, and I saw my mom get treated badly by the apartheid government and so forth." But they never covered that key thing, about a almost a genocidal statement. And what was interesting, only one mainstream media outlet in South Africa covered that, and that was the South African. And kudos to them. Thank you for that. And guess what? And an American publication, the New York, is it the New York Post? No,
the Post. The Post.
Yes, the Post. Yes, it had to be the Post. It can't be Washington Post. No.
No. Well, actually, they got the Washington Times, the Washington. The Washington Post. We call it the Washington Compost. That's we call it the Compost. The New York Slimes and the Washington Compost. That's what we call them. But yeah, the New York Post is more balanced, although some of it's to the right. But it's more balanced reporting, and it goes after stories that people don't bother to cover. It's not salacious, but some of the stories are almost like looking at Page 3 in London, and that sort of thing. But most of their news is actually pretty darn good. So anyway, yeah,
right. I agree with that. And again, kudos to the New York Post for doing that. And I don't know if you saw Ernst van Zyl released an article in Politics Web.
I did. I wanted to talk about that. So go ahead.
Oh yeah. So I mean, what I liked about that, he called out the mainstream media for not really covering the key aspects of the trial, and also another topic. And and feel free to stop me, Chris. Because I'm just unloading, right?
Yeah.
So another topic that I felt was just really important was how the media said that if AfrForum did not take Malema to court on this, then Malema would not have this platform and everything like that. And I mean, this is crazy. These guys were actually praising Malema since 2014.
Yeah, I know. So look, let's just put a nail in that BS right there. First off, the platform that's given to Malema was given by the very people making that asinine argument. instead of reporting the news that he says that he's going to kill white people, that, and the moral equivalency. Look, I'm getting a little sick of moral equivalency. We can play this game all day, but let's put this in perspective, and not to gross out any of my audience, but this is a matter of fact. It was evidence presented in court, and we knew this if you follow what happens in rural violence in South Africa. But Malema tried to equivocate, or tried to make it on the same level of pain of his mother being harassed and police breaking into his home and grabbing his mother and being subject to arrest. Now, that's wrong. Probably. I don't know. I don't know that she was a criminal. I don't know that she did anything wrong. But I suspect it was wrong, and Malema's correct to be angry about it. And I'll accept that. That's fair. But equating that to a situation in which a mother and her daughter are raped and then raped with a broken bottle head to destroy their vaginas, and then they're murdered that way, they bleed to death, they take their blood and paint Kill the Boer on the wall, and he tries to say that's the same level of pain. I mean, this is just a sick individual. For a long time, Dumo, I said, people are like, oh, he's a racist. I'm like, I don't know that he's a racist. I do know that he's an opportunist, and he sees race as a vehicle to fame, popularity, and fortune, and his Piaget watches and his Range Rovers and all these other things for someone that has the combined intellectual capacity of a pissant. But anyway, so I never known he's a racist, but now I have to change my assessment. I'm not going to call him a racist, but his actions are nothing but racist. He's a hateful, nasty, slimy little turd.
Exactly. And Mark Oppenheimer really exposed that very well.
Oh, Mark just, I was like, oh, look at Juju's entrails. They're spilling out at this witness stand. He's like the mark of Zorro. and it's so comical watching the fake stream media try to paint this as some big victory for Malema. Now, I don't know what the judgment will be, but the reality is we have footage, and I've downloaded every session that AfrForum had because I have a gigabyte of download speed, so I got them all. And I'm picking pieces out, and we have footage that's just going to be gold for years to come. I mean, this guy, and not just for Juju, but also Professor Karen. Oh my gosh. My lord, could you please stop him? He's asking me difficult questions. I'm so confused. Help me.
I mean, even her, the hypocrisy that is so evident. I think that really got to me because when it came to Malema's song, they said, the Kill the Boer song, she was saying, oh, it's not a command, it's about struggles and it's about this and it's about that. And then Mark said, ask, is it possible that this could inspire someone to do any violence? And then she's like, oh, it's a hypothetical. I don't deal with hypotheticals. And then Mark's like,
your entire argument is hypothetical.
Exactly. You're an academic. You can entertain hypotheticals. And then she's like, my lord, I don't think that, basically, sorry, I'm just thinking about what she said. Please stop him. He's asking difficult questions.
Oh, please go away. She's a witch. Burn her. Oh, I'm not a witch. Look at her nose. She's a witch. They put this nose on me. Did you? Well, we did the nose. And between this and look, I don't mean to denigrate people's culture, and that's not what this is meant to be, but I'm about to say something that might offend a few people. It's not meant to do that. But I mean, all these girls vomiting in schools in Western Cape, their ancestors are calling. Really? How come it doesn't affect boys? How come it only affects girls in certain schools, not the entire country, not the entire world? Are those also girls magically different genetically, DNA-wise, than any other girls on the planet? I mean, girls in Venezuela, why aren't they vomiting, getting a calling from their ancestors? Come on, man. This is like Salem in the 17th century. Next thing you know, they'll be burning witches in the Western Cape. She's a witch! She's a witch! Ban her! Ban her!
I mean, it reminds me of that story of Non-Ngawuse. I don't know if you know of that story. Where
is this where they killed all the cattle?
That's the one.
Oh, I know this, dude. I know the story. I mean, the Xhosa as a people, many of them exist today because the generosity of the Trek Boers who fed them after they slaughtered all their cattle and starved. And that's the part of history never talked about.
Right. You see, look at that. I mean, but people, and what is very interesting is that I always ask myself, how could they fall for such? Like, how could they fall for such? And I'm just
we fell for Joe Biden, so anything's possible. Remember Ramaphosa? People fell for that too. I didn't. Oh, he's a brilliant businessman. South Africa's going to soar now. Soar right into the toilet.
No, that's exactly what happens. I mean, if that could happen back in like, 200 years ago, then
yeah, it was
it
was the 19th century, not the 12th century. It wasn't the Stone Age or the Middle Ages. This was in modern history. Wow.
Yeah.
And you know, people forget, you know, they talk about different things about land, this, that, and the other. There were 9 major wars between the Xhosa and the Trek Boers, or whatever they were called. They weren't really Trek Boers at that point, you know, but those folks moving east. 9 wars. Both sides started the conflicts at different times. Both sides suffered. Both, you know, and it wasn't like there was an innocent side here. Both were competing over land and cattle and water, and that's what happened. That's the sands of history. And, you know, to act like only one group of people is the aggressor and never did anything wrong is just silly. Both groups are responsible there. Anyway, that's just, but yeah, I guess we have a little lighthearted moment talking about the prophets and about the callings and Julius. I mean, what else are you going to do? I mean, you just cry listening to this otherwise. I mean, how can somebody be so full of hatred that they cannot recognize the suffering? Well, that they can't, that can't be racism because the people that did don't have power. So when you're raping someone, that's not power? I mean, rape is consistently defined in law as an act of violence, not it's not sexual act. It's an act of violence. I mean, that's how it's. So of course it's position of power. It's just this guy really, at some point, he's going to stop being an inconvenient or a convenient idiot for the ANC, and he's going to have an unfortunate traffic accident at some point. That's just going to happen. I don't know when, but it's surprised it hasn't happened already. But I guess he hasn't become a big enough problem or embarrassment for them yet. But I think the thing that Julius will always be around because he's got a plateau of 15%. You know, South Africans, there may be a lot of stupid South Africans, a lot of stupid Americans for that matter, but there'll be a lot of stupid South Africans, but I don't think it's more than 15% of South Africans can be hoodwinked into voting for the charlatan.
Right. And I think a lot of South Africans are actually catching on to that as well. I mean, I don't know if you saw what Malema did with regards to going to, you did know, going to Midrand, going to Cream Restaurant and all of that, because Mashaba was because he noticed that Mashaba was actually getting a lot of votes from people who were concerned about the borders of South Africa. And I phrase it that way because, I don't know if you saw, okay, let me not say I don't know if you saw, but I think I'm pretty sure you saw, the whole Operation Tutula thing going on with
the xenophobia.
Yes. Now there's xenophobia. There's xenophobia in that as well. And I think that, I think at the beginning, Malema didn't want to be seen as a xenophobic. I mean,
well, not after he's preaching our brothers in Zimbabwe. That'd be kind of contradictory, wouldn't it?
Exactly. And now he sees that type of message does not resonate well with the voters of South Africa. And that's why
recording in progress.
Sorry about that. The record button didn't hit her. I just hit it now. So we've lost 13 minutes. That'll be a tragedy if PooTube censors. But anyway, go ahead.
Download it before they get a chance.
We missed all the fun. All the laughs already occurred. Now we talk about misery.
Right. So I think in a nutshell, going back to that thing that Malema did, just going and flip-flopping and everything like that. I think it goes back to what you said, that he's being an opportunist, and opportunism is the name of his game. And now that he went to Cream Restaurant and performed all those antics and what do you want to call it, I think that now a lot of people are going to look at it and think, you know what, maybe Malema is trying a bit too hard, because I see even some friends who are ANC voters, right? They'll say, nah, I'll never vote for Malema. Like, why? Because everything he says, he always contradicts himself. Like, one day he's going to say this, next day he's going to say that. So I think that there's that growing sense of like Malema is being too contradictory, and it's too contradictory for my liking. I won't vote for him.
Well, I wish that some of your friends who vote ANC would start to realize that about the ANC. It's all about equality. Unless your skin isn't sufficient pigmented, then you can't have contracts with the government, and you must hand your equity over to people. I mean, I wish they wake up to that as well. I mean, we've essentially replaced a quasi-socialist government, what was a security state, that was focused on a patronage system that ingratiated a particular segment of population, especially the Afrikaans, white Afrikaans-speaking segment, not exclusive, but pretty much heavily for that. We've gone from that with parastatals. Now, sometimes out of necessity, like Sasol was necessary because oil imports were cut. But you still had state-owned enterprise. Denel, Sasol, South African Airways, all these things were owned by the state. We've gone from that minority government that had a patronage system and largely a socialist economy and a controlled economy with controlled fuel prices. They set here the price is set by the marketplace, not by the government. Thank God. 40 years ago, it was set by the government, and it was a disaster. So we've gone from that to the exact same thing with a majority rule government. The ANC favors its privileged class, which is not entirely, but overwhelmingly black, and certain people, mostly Xhosa and Zulu, but not exclusively. And but that doesn't mean most Xhosa and Zulu don't benefit from it. It's just a small number of them. But that's the main people that lead the party, and it is still living off of socialist state enterprises. It is still having the same approach. I mean, you basically, all you've done is change the faces, but you've got the same brand, just different names running South Africa. And the difference here is that this brand is incompetent. At least the old brand could manage rule of law. The old brand could manage businesses. They could run Eskom. They could run Transnet. They could run all these enterprises efficiently. So their patronage at least resulted in competent people. This patronage resulted in it's our turn to eat. We don't care if we run things because we're running into the ground.
Right. And I think this is something that I was also thinking about as well. And I said, I mean, just going back to the ANC friends, usually their response would be after you say that, they'll be like, but Dumo, 1994, you know?
What about 1994? What about 94? It's over. Over half the population of South Africa was born after 94. People need to wake up to that. Most of the country has only ever known ANC rule, unless you lived in the Western Cape when it was controlled by the DA. That's it. It's ANC.
Yeah, very fair. And yeah, I'll tell that to them next time.
Yeah,
maybe that'll convince them.
I doubt
it. But going back to how the ANC lives now, you know, the whole patronage network and everything like that. This is a very problematic situation because we see it now with Eskom. I mean, now stage 4 load shedding. Fortunately, I know some people say I live in some kind of ivory tower, and I think they are kind of right because, I mean, right now stage 4 load shedding is happening, and where I live, there is a generator, and the generator is running as I speak now.
Well, that's okay. Cool at 40 Rand a liter for diesel. That's cool.
I don't know if I'm paying for it, but...
you're paying for it one way or another, either in your rent or whatever. You're paying for it, your security, something.
It might be part of the levy, but either way, you know, it's like I'm not feeling the bad effects of it. But as soon as I leave, I'm pretty sure it'll get worse. But that's the thing, you know, something like Eskom, you know, I mean, an entity that was, and you know, a lot of these ANC people say we need to beat the legacy of apartheid, and Eskom is a legacy of apartheid, but yet they don't do anything about it because they can see how they can benefit from it. I mean, you saw in the state capture how they used Eskom to benefit the Guptas and pay for the wedding of the Guptas. I think they bought coal with 300 million. And then that money was used to for a wedding. And this is the thing, like, it almost seems like to me that maybe the problem was not that black people were getting discriminated against, even though that is a problem.
Yeah, that was a problem. But that wasn't the problem.
That wasn't the problem. It looks like the problem was that they wanted the same power that the apartheid government had and use it on their own terms. That's what they wanted. And it goes back to another topic that I'm going to be writing about is the problem of power. I'm going to talk about the problem of power, but I don't have a solution to it. Unfortunately, I wish I had a solution, but I just want to I wanted to just make people know about power and its problems. But that's the problem. It's like, oh, it's bad when the white guy has it, but when I have it, oh no, it's fine. Even though I'm doing exactly, or not even exactly, but almost exactly what the white person's doing. And this is a problem. I just don't think that it's sustainable because here's the reality. At some point, Eskom's going to collapse, and then what? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
I mean, the roads already. I mean,
the roads are a disaster already. The trains are a disaster. Cable theft, rails being stolen. Exactly. I mean, 85% of the rail network in KZN is non-functional, and 60% of the nation's rail network is down. This was a colossus. I mean, this was a country that produced over 42% of all electricity consumed in the entire continent of Africa when it was a country of 34 million people. Can you imagine that? 800 million people in Africa and 34 million people produced and consumed half the electricity on the continent.
Look at that. And check this out. We're producing less electricity than we were 10 years ago, but yet we're paying more.
Oh, yeah.
That's daylight robbery. Where's the competition commission? On that, saying hello, we need competition here.
What about the state stealing from your pockets? Now it's overcome by events because oil is surging. But when oil was $80 a barrel a few weeks back, people were like, the oil is going up. I'm like, well, stop. Oil reached $187 a barrel when Barack Obama was president. $187 a barrel. Now, that wasn't the gasoline was cheaper for various reasons than it had been in 2008 when the price was lower, but gasoline was more expensive. But it's a complicated story. But bottom line is that oil hit $187 a barrel. At $80 a barrel, I'm not even talking about inflation-adjusted price. I'm talking that was the price in 2013 or thereabouts. So now, a decade later, with inflation, that 187 is probably like, 220, I'm just guessing, or something like that after inflation, maybe 200. So at $80 a barrel doesn't explain why South Africa is paying the highest prices ever for petrol. What does? Taxation. In 1992, the ANC ran an ad in South African newspapers with the collusion of the liberal media, accusing the National Party of being racist because they were raising the price of petrol. Well, they raised the price of petrol because it wasn't profitable, and they had to raise enough money to pay for the cost of producing it through SASO and other means. So they raised the price. It had nothing to do with racism, trying to impoverish black people. So if the National Party is trying to impoverish black people by raising the price in 1992, what is the ANC doing? Trying to destroy and murder black people by setting record taxation on a price? If you take the taxation out of petrol, the price would drop to seven rand a liter right now. That's how much thereabouts. That's how much taxes on it. This is insane, and people don't see this. They're too stupid or too lazy to pay attention to what's going on. And it's the same over here. I know because in the state I live in, Pennsylvania, we had the highest we have federal taxes, which haven't changed since 1998. It's about 18 cents a gallon, which, given the world, that's a pretty generous. That's pretty good. That's a reasonable tax to pay. I'm okay with that on a gallon because that's over 3 liters. It's about 5 cents per liter. I mean that's reasonable. I mean for the government to take that, I don't have a problem with that. But the state here taxed on 43 cents. We pay 58 or something. Anyway, we pay 58 or 60 cents. We were the highest in the country until California raised their rates. Now they pay 66 cents a gallon for taxes. People talk about immediate relief for consumers. South Africa, it's easy. Just stop the taxation on petrol overnight. But they'll never do that.
Right. And I mean, and let's see what that petrol is used for, that the revenue that they get from these taxes. I mean, part of it goes to the road accident fund. They don't have money.
Well, according to Fikile Mabulula, the 300 billion rand that no one can account for in the road accident fund is there. They haven't taken it. It's all there. The question is, why isn't it being dispersed to people who've been in traffic accidents? That's my question.
Right. And they're actually blaming lawyers. They're saying that lawyers are taking so much money. Okay, fine. They can blame the lawyers for that, but still. I mean, you're not fulfilling the function.
Why do you even need a lawyer? I don't know this. I'm not that deeply involved in a road accident fund, how it works. But on the surface, you would think that money is put into a pile. If there's an accident, it's used to pay out claims for people who are injured or killed. Okay, why do you need lawyers for that? You just need administrators. Right. You just need administrators. All right, you had a fatality in your family. 3 people died in a traffic accident. That's 100,000 rand a head. 300,000 rand. Here you go. Boom. Oh, your car was destroyed. Your car cost you this much. Well, the road accident fund won't fully reimburse you because it's 30 years old, but we will reimburse this percentage. Here you go. Boom. There's your money. You don't need a lawyer for that. You need some bureaucrat. Come on. This is nonsense.
Right. I totally agree with that. Remember before, I think you know this, Chris. I think you know this, but let's see.
Go ahead.
Before the road accident fund, you actually needed to. It was almost like a court case type of thing. You would go to these guys and they'd have like a court situation, and you'd have to prove that someone was at fault, but it wasn't you, right? And then you'd get the payouts. But then what happened was they said that a lot of people could not afford lawyers. And again, this is the narrative. I'm not saying this is what the case is, but they said that a lot of the lawyers were taking advantage of these people because you needed a lawyer to actually go to the road accident fund. Then they changed it up and said, okay, you know what? Then they used the model that you explained now, a no-fault based model.
Yeah.
If you got hurt in a car accident, come through, we'll pay you. And then they realized there's no cash. And people don't get money. That's the reality.
Well, in fact, here in the chat, Cameron's here. Hey, Cameron, good to see you. Cameron Heslop says the road accident fund is useless. He's got like 9 exclamation points after. I was supposed to get 10 million rand after my accident. He didn't get a penny. Still waiting for a settlement. Yeah, that was horrific. It was a horrible accident. He's lucky to be alive. We're glad he's here with us. But no, it's in America. When I was a kid, if there was a traffic accident, no matter where it was, cops, boom, highway patrol, local sheriff, city police come out. You know, if you're blocking traffic, you move to the side. But otherwise, you don't touch anything. Cops come out, the troopers with the little, Stetsons on, those hats, and they take the little wheel with the chalk on it, and they mark off all the stuff. They take photographs. They do an accident investigation, and then whoever's at fault, they inform the insurance company, and then they settle. Well, anymore, that's not how it works. Insurance companies just they duke it out in America. So if you have an accident here, especially if there's not a fatality, the cops won't even come half the time. They just tell you, take some pictures and contact your insurance company. Because it's just there's just too many accidents, too many people. Monty Python just described, hey, I would like a shrubbery, Monty Python. A shrubbery. No, but I haven't seen a username like that in ages. But no, the no fault thing. I'm not saying it works. I'm not saying it's ideal, but I also don't understand why you have to have insurance in South Africa if there's a road accident fund. Isn't that like double jeopardy? Isn't that like insurance a second time? You're paying for your own insurance on your private vehicle, and then you pay insurance because you're paying at the road accident fund, which doesn't pay out to anybody like Cameron. It just seems crazy.
Yeah, it is. Now that you mentioned it, let's imagine that the road accident fund actually did pay out what they're supposed to pay out in a timeous manner. Why would you need insurance? Interesting. I just need to check really what they pay for, because it could be that they may not pay for the damage to the vehicle, but they might pay, let's say,
pain and suffering,
hospital bills, pain and suffering, hospital bills. And I think the pain and suffering, the money allocated for pain and suffering can be used to probably get a new car or something. But I think with insurance, I think the reason why people just buy it because they just do their job. At least, at least in South Africa, they may not be as generous as we would hope they would be. Like sometimes, because you never there was one incident. I'll give you one incident where a guy got murdered, right, in South Africa, and there was a particular insurance company that the wife wanted to claim from, and the insurance company said they're not going to pay out the amount that was claimed for because of the fact that the husband did not do a blood test on a particular day. And this went big on social media. It got to the point where they got pressured on social media to actually pay it out. They first said that no, they were going to pay out all the premiums back. But they said, no, we don't want the premiums. You want the actual amount that are stated in the contract. And they paid it out. So yes, there are insurance companies that are, I would say, bad players in the game, but they're much more reliable than the road accident fund.
Yeah. My lord, please, I don't like the questioning from Dumo. It's upsetting me now. Please, my lord, could you intervene here? Please. Yes, my name is Karen, in case you're wondering. Anyway, sorry, I couldn't help that. Yeah, no, the road accident fund, it's interesting, Dumo. We seem to find topics that most people aren't talking about. I had no intention of talking about the road accident fund today, but here we go. We just, it just seems to be the nature of us chatting here. But we would be remiss if we didn't talk about something that's very concerning. But before we do that, let me just notify my audience very quickly about a very interesting development here. If you're not aware of it, Odyssey now has an Android app. Whoa! For my audience in South Africa who has struggled to watch Odyssey content for a long time, that's why they haven't followed me on Odyssey, you have no excuses. At least if you have an Android phone. I don't know if it's on the Apple Store. Go download the Android app for Odyssey. It's brilliant. It works fantastic. I've been getting notifications all day. I might have to turn it off because I'm getting so many notifications. But I downloaded it last night. Reclaim the Net announced it. So Odyssey, I've talked to viewers in South Africa who've downloaded, who are my viewers already. Erica's one of them. And they say it works. It's not like you're trying to watch it on the web-based thing. It's working. So please download the Odyssey app and you can subscribe to Chris Wyatt Africa on Odyssey. And the reason I say that is because that there's a lot of things that are censored. And I've avoided the trouble I ran into last year when I told the truth on my channel by telling the full truth on some videos that appear on Rumble and Odyssey. I haven't done any of those in a month or so, but there are a lot of those videos over there where I say things that will get you censored on this platform. So please go over and download that app. You will not regret it. I have no interest in Odyssey, no financial stake. I just have an interest in building an audience over there. Also, I was able to on my mobile last night. Okay, we got it, Hendo. He's putting all the links up. We got it, man. He's starting to bomb the links there. But Hendo, I think we got it. No, but so Yeah, last night I did a live stream on my mobile. It's charging in the other room because it died. By the way, if you're on YouTube, if you're live streaming on your mobile and it dies, the live stream just keeps going. You can't shut it off on another device. You got to get back to the device and stop. So what if your phone just stops working, like one of those Chinese Huawei phones? I guess your YouTube stream will just go on for 3 years before they finally realize it. My phone died. I was walking in the snow, and I was that's it. Because I warned people the battery was going to die, but I guess people tuned in later, they didn't hear that. And people hung around. I walked home. It was about 10, 15 minutes. I got back got in the car, got back to the house, and then I walk in, and it's still going. And I tried to turn it off in my browser, and it wouldn't let me do it. I have no control. I had to plug my mobile in and wait for 5%. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm ending now. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so that's. I guess the laughs are still coming today, but yeah. So that's the thing on YouTube. That's just an aside. But download the Odyssey app, folks. You won't regret it. Trust me. A lot of good content. By the way, it's not a right-wing thing. There's a bunch of hate-wanking leftists on there too, just like hate-wanking rightists on there. So there's lots of content that's on there. But it's free speech. RT is on there. If you want to watch Russia TV, I'm not advocating for them, but if you want to see what the big scandal is about, why they have to be canceled, go watch it. Yeah, they're pro-Russia, but I watched it the other night on Odyssey, and they reported accurately what NATO said. They reported accurately what Poland said. They reported accurately what Zelinsky said. Even though it didn't look good for Russia, they reported. And that they also did puff pieces about, here are our brave Russian troops, that nonsense. But, most of us are bright enough to see through that, so I don't know why they've got to shut them down. But anyway, RT is on Odyssey, so that's the only platform I know they're on in the West if you want to watch it. All right, the development that we need to talk about very quickly here is that this morning, reports came out from the Ukraine, and I don't know if they're verified or not. They're coming from multiple sources now, but a lot of this is circular reporting. The Ukrainians say it, and then everybody reports it, and then it becomes truth, which is not necessarily the case. But apparently, they're claiming that the Russians that are occupying the defunct Chernobyl nuclear facility have damaged or cut the power, either inadvertently or intentionally, or I don't know how, or to the coolant system, and that's a serious problem. We could have, in short order, nuclear material blowing out or escaping from the defunct Chernobyl nuclear power plant. That's pretty frightening. Now, people got excited about a fire at a training building. It was outside the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, the 9th largest in the world and the largest in Europe, when the Russians took it a few days ago. But that was outside. It wasn't at the reactor. Although we saw a lot of damage next to reactors, that was kind of frightening after the fact. But this is actually, if it's true, it's very disturbing. We've lived through this already, the 26th of April, 1987, Chernobyl. We don't need this again. Pretty frightening stuff there, Dumo.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the Chernobyl accident was a horrible one. I remember when I was in high school, grade 8, 2008, long time ago.
A long time ago. It was yesterday, man.
And so, yeah, it actually was yesterday.
I was in Botswana.
Oh, okay. And I remember doing a high school project on it, and we had to. I didn't understand nuclear engineering that well, and I wouldn't say I understand it better, but I'm not at the level of one who can actually build one, not like Dr. Calvin Kemp, for example. But one thing that I saw was that there was a lot of mismanagement there, and also not only that, apparently Chernobyl was actually used to create nuclear weapons before, if I'm not mistaken, and then they converted it to try and provide power. I'm not 100% sure, but then as a result of that, that type of transition, that actually contributed to the accident itself. But now, either way, the reality is that the accident did happen, right? And now we might have another one. I mean, this is really, really scary because, one thing I do know is that when it comes to these nuclear reactors in these power stations, they need to be cooled. And if they're not cooled, things can overheat, and then boom, you get something really bad. So, yeah, I just really think, in a war perspective, that's a really hectic way to get a lot of innocent people killed, and also the radiation that could actually occur as a result of that, and the ramifications that has. Yeah,
well, the ramifications are global. That's what This isn't Ukraine, Russia. This isn't Ukraine, Russia, Poland. This is the planet. When Chernobyl went up in 1986 after the engineers screwed up a test, just like 3 Mile Island. Yeah. Both of these, and the same thing at Fukushima in Japan. Mm-hmm. Now that wasn't a test, but that was a failure to follow protocol and execute things the way they're supposed to be done in the midst of a tsunami. They have measures in place, and never should have been any radiation leak, never should have been a problem with Fukushima, but they failed to do what they were supposed to do. That's pretty frightening. But the 3 Mile Island which is 30 kilometers from my house, by the way. 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant, which is now defunct. They shut it down last year. But 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl they were testing. They were doing routine tests, and they screwed it up. That's pretty frightening. But in 86, it wasn't the Russians or the Soviets that told us about it. There was no Ukraine. It was the Soviet Socialist Republic and the Soviet Union. It was Finland and Sweden who detected elevated radiation levels and thought their nuclear plants had leaks, and they were about to shut them all down. They were really concerned. And they finally realized it was radiation that went up in the stratosphere from the explosion in Ukraine, and the winds carried it to the northwest over Scandinavia. And as it turns out, the worst irradiated parts around the immediate vicinity of Ukraine, of course, around Chernobyl, that were affected on the planet were Scandinavia and the Alps in Central Europe. Guess where I was at on the 26th of April, 1986, in the Alps.
In the Alps. Oh, wow.
I was in the Alps. So that might explain. We saw a few moments here. Artie Pandey said, Odyssey's selling point says, discover a universe of weird and exciting videos on the App Store. And he's laughing. He says, Chris, are you in the weird or exciting category? Well, I don't know. I think I'm in the exciting category. I might be in the weird, and I'm going to blame it on radiation from Chernobyl, 1986.
Right.
Yeah. So Light Rain says, off topic, social media was censoring conspiracy theorists for saying there was U.S. biolabs in the Ukraine. Today, the U.S. government says they were afraid Russia would seize U.S. biolabs. Yeah, I know. Victoria Nuland, I'm like, oh my gosh, testifying for Congress. In fact, one of my previous guests, who was a member of the British Parliament, has been hitting me up for days about U.S. biolabs in Ukraine. I'm like, I have no evidence. I'm not aware of it. And now we have Victoria Nuland testifying to it, and people are getting censored for saying that's crazy. I don't know what that story is, and I don't even want to get into that, because who knows if YouTube changes the rules and suddenly that violates the rules. You know, I don't have any evidence of it, so I don't think it's even worthwhile talking about. But it's pretty crazy stuff. Well, let's do this. By the way, folks, everyone should thank me for protecting Dumo Denga, and by extension, Koketso Ritsani, although he seems to be wimping out tonight. He's not here, but too busy working or something like that, paying the bills. I mean, that's so lame, man. Come on. If you're going to be part of the movement, you got to sacrifice, brother. No, but seriously. So you guys should thank me, because I've shielded them from prosecution from the Films Publication Board in South Africa. They are safe. This is a production based at an IP address in Moldova. I mean, the United States. I suspect a lot of South Africans will be now broadcasting out of Moldova with a virtual private network coming in the future. But for those who don't know what I'm talking about, the South African government President Ramaphosa signed a scary censorship law, which they're not calling a censorship law. They actually had a few good things in it. It's put in a clause to protect people from revenge porn, which I think that's good. That's going to protect people. You know, if you do that, there's a penalty for it. But it created an Orwellian body. You know, in the States, we have an organization like the Motion Picture, something that says MPAA. They rate movies. So if it's Steven Seagal movie, it's too much violence, it's R. There's too much breast there, that's PG. You know, and it's just Disney. Well, that sucks. Just don't watch it. No, it's G for general audiences. No, but they rate movies, and that has an impact on how large an audience you can have. You know, if it's a G movie, anybody can come. If it's PG, small children can't come. You know, just teenagers with parental supervision, and R, only adults. So that's a voluntary thing. And if you want to get your film in theaters, you got to get those ratings. Otherwise, you're not going to put it in there. In South Africa, they have a film publication board. It does something similar. If you want to go watch, Leon Schuster, you can't, because he's a racist, so you can't watch him. But they rate the films anyway. So same thing. Now this body is being turned into an organ of the state, a bureaucratic organ that has the power of law. And if you produce film, anything can be considered film, a TikTok video, an Instagram video, a YouTube video, a Facebook video. If you produce that, you are in violation of law in South Africa. You can be charged with criminal charges. So basically, they demand that anyone who produces content register with this body, which of course is probably as efficient as the police service at registering privately owned weapons, which I think was an attempt to disarm people, making them criminals when they made repeated efforts to register their weapons when that law was passed years ago, and then nobody had the paperwork. So you go there, they don't have the paperwork. They don't have the paperwork. Well, we're going to take your weapons because you're criminal. You didn't register them. You didn't let me register them. And it's going to be the same thing here. This law, and I'll let Dumo get it in a second here. This law is yet another overreach of a corrupt cabal that is intent on using the rule of law to criminalize legal behavior and to use it to usurp power and to silence opposition. Two examples. All people are freaking out over the expropriation without compensation bill. I've said from the very beginning, pay attention. Expropriation without compensation is not land. It's land, it's jewelry, it's Buc-ee's, it's your house, it's your bank accounts, it's your retirement accounts. That law if it ever becomes a law, will be used to silence anyone who dares to have the temerity to oppose the government. If you speak out against the government of the day, which today is the ANC, tomorrow it might be the DA, then who knows, they will use that law to come after you. They'll take your assets or they'll threaten to, and you'll shut up and you'll be happy about it. That is not a democratic system. That is not a just system. And that's the same thing that'll happen. There's no way that anybody in South Africa can register or view hundreds of thousands of videos that South Africans make every day of dancing around, shaking their booty, doing freaking, do this, or recording stuff, or doing these programs. There's no way. This is an intentional effort to silence opposition speech. That's what's going on here. And it's frightening because today, technically, if Dumo had hosted this, we could rat him out, turn him into the authorities. They could charge him with a crime. But he's protected because my IP address in in the U.S., is making sure that no one actually can charge him with a crime because I'm outside of their legal jurisdiction. Anyway, Dumo, your thoughts now that you've heard my thoughts on the Film Publications Board.
Right. Yes, I have to say, firstly, I agree with the idea that this is actually an attempt by the government to silence people who criticize them. I also think it's a way for the government to actually try and get mainstream or big tech companies out of South Africa, or to at least get a foot in these companies. So I have a theory. It might be far-fetched, but I think it is reasonable to some degree. What I think is going to happen is that they might even say that, well, since it's impossible for us to track the video uploads of people in South Africa, that means that the big tech companies are actually enabling such things. So we need to go speak to them. And then they'll go speak to them and say, listen, we need to track the uploads that happen in this country. And if you don't want to do that, then you should leave or pay a fine or whatever. But ultimately, if every social media company leaves as a result of that, or does not operate in South Africa, or does not allow the functionality to upload or participate on social media for South Africans living in South Africa, then I think what will happen is that they'll create their own one, some ANC version thing, like you see in China with Weibo and everything like that, right? So I think ultimately they probably want to have their own social media company, and what you want, and in that social media company, when you register, you're gonna have to provide your ID number, where you live, where you work, and all this type of information that you would not put out on social media. Well, people do actually. They actually do put where they work. There's LinkedIn and stuff like that. But now the government has access to it, and they can use that data and other databases that they have access to control your life. So maybe you said something like, oh, Ramaphosa is the worst president, and they can see, oh, here's Dumo's handle, here's his ID number, oh, and he's got a loan with this particular bank. Well, then they go to that bank and they'll say, listen, seize his assets or something like that. It'll make it easier for them to actually do something of that nature. And I think that's the ultimate goal. It's to have that Chinese social credit system, social credit score system as well. Yeah.
No, this is all about political control. Look what little Justine Trudeau did there in Canada. Immorally and illegally, in my view, definitely immorally, but certainly I believe illegally as well, invoking the Emergency Powers Act, which is meant for a national security threat or a natural disaster, not because truckers are honking horns and people are camping out in the Capitol. That's not what it's intended for. They have used that immorally and, in my view, illegally. They're also using it because they're still using it now. It's been revoked, but they're still using it to persecute and seize the assets of people who were involved in this. This is insane. This is government overreach. I don't know what happened to the Anglo-Saxon world, of which I call South Africa Anglo-Saxon. Yes, I know the majority of the population is Black African, but they were part of the Anglo-Saxon world at some level. What I mean by the Anglo-Saxon world is the Western system of jurisprudence and economic models, that sort of thing. South Africa was firmly in that camp. The Anglo-Saxon world, of course, this is what I'm talking about. So it's the Anglo-Saxon world has lost its mind. I mean, we have the Australian penal colony under Scott Morrison, and even worse, Dan Andrews in the state of Victoria and Melbourne. We've got Jacinda Ardern, also known as Mr. Ed. Hello, I'm Mr. Ed. A horse is a horse, of course, unless, of course, that horse is the famous Mr. Ed. Yeah, so we got Jacinda. We've got, I'll tell you, man, Justin Trudeau must have been that kid that got picked on in school a lot, because he looks like such a little wuss when he's standing next to Boris Johnson with his hair that looks like it just came out of a wind tunnel, and he's got even the Netherlands prime minister looked more regal than Justin Trudeau. Yes, we're imposing the utmost sanctions on Russia. Yes. What should I say next, Boris? Boris, my lord, I don't know my line. Could you give me a line, my lord? There's no response for that. That's just too funny.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. What is this now? People are turning on my beard. Foot sec, man. Turning on my beard now. What's that all about? They say people tell me to grow it for 2 years now. Like, get rid of the beard. It's my calling card, man. I mean, when I show up, people get nervous now. They're actually frightened. They like taking me serious. Like, man, that's like Buford T. Pusser. He walks tall with a big stick. And with the truckers, I fit right in. They just think I'm a trucker. Hey, how long you been in trucking? 5 minutes. Well, I just showed up, man. Let me get behind that rig. What's this?
I'm pretty sure that's where it goes, right? So
Yeah. That's what's that? The 17th gear? What is this? Oh God, who's in that truck? I went to Hagerstown, the People's Convoy, which didn't get much coverage, starting in California, went all the way across the country, wound up in Hagerstown, Maryland. I went down there. It's still down there. I went down there over the weekend. I actually interviewed this big YouTuber trucker named Sasnak, which is Kansas backwards. He's originally from Kansas, so Sasnak. He's got a YouTube program. He's getting 15,000, 20,000 people watching his live streams while they do the convoy around the Beltway. Really interesting guy. But unfortunately, I got like 350 views on my video. Another guy, this Asian guy, I interviewed him, got 129,000 views for an interview that was not nearly as exciting as one we had. But anyway, that just shows you the power of the Poo Tube and its algorithm. But it was fantastic to go down there. So I was down there. We're going to run out of time here shortly, but I just want to share this real quick, Dumo, just how it's a small world. So my second stepfather was in the trucking industry until his co-driver decided to commit suicide one night when he was asleep in the cab and drove the semi off a ridge line in West Virginia and walked away because he was drunk and didn't get hurt. My stepfather was paralyzed, and he had to drag himself with his upper body. He's a big, tall guy, about 6 feet 5 inches, so well over about 2 meters. Drug himself up the embankment to the road and waved down someone in the middle of the night, and then he wound up being paralyzed for a while. He was able to walk again later on, but never returned to the same sort of stature he had. But so he couldn't drive truck anymore because it's on your back, that's tough. But so he had a long time affiliation. Before that, when we were living here in Pennsylvania with my first stepfather and my mother, they were big into CBs, the Citizen Band Radio back in the 70s, all that stuff. And I was too as a kid, had my own handle as a Baltimore kid. Anyway, so I've had this relationship with the trucking industry, tangentially way back then. After my stepfather passed away, my mother got more deeply involved in trucking again. She drove truck. She's in her 70s, late 60s, 70s, driving truck. Anyway, she was very well known in the trucking industry and an advocate for truckers, a very, very outspoken advocate for them with all the challenges they face. Anyway, so I go to Hagerstown and I ran into Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson and Ann Vanderstill, who are two very well-known YouTube personalities and also on other platforms. Both of them stand up for things. But anyway, I had interviewed Laura Lynn a couple years ago and she didn't recognize me, but that's okay. I mean, it's fine. And Ann Vanderstill, I mistook her for Laura Lynn, so that's why I've got kind of sheep. Well, they look kind of alike from a distance, so I was kind of sheepish. But I was talking to them and they're like, so are you? How long you been? Are you a trucker? I'm not a trucker. I'm a retired Army officer and a journalist. I'm just down here covering the events like you guys are. But my mother was well known in the trucking industry, and then from the side, about 10 meters away, I hear this, well, I know your mother. I've got her flag in my cab. And there's a truck parked caddy corner. This guy's fixing the bus, the control bus where all the people, the leaders meet for these events. Like a big camper inside, not less a bus and more of a camper. So the engine, there was something wrong with the compressor. So he's got the engine out, he's working. I goes, yeah, I knew your mother. I look over and it's Leland Schmidt, one of my mother's best friends from the trucking industry. He's part of this convoy. And then I find out after the fact that Mike Landis, who is from here in Pennsylvania, but we don't really know each other very well. He's the guy that was very close to my mother as well. She used to ride in his truck when he went through Ohio, and he could get on the radio and try to, get people interested in the trucking industry. Anyway, so he's the one that carried my mother's ashes to the gravesite. He brought his semi-truck, drove up to the graveyard in rural Ohio, just above the river, and brought that up there the day that her ashes were interred there. So he's down there as well, and I did some interviews with some of the folks down there. It's been really interesting, but it's getting unjust reporting in the press on both directions. People overly. I had a flag up here for a few days, and it said it's supporting the truckers rally. And then yesterday on my live stream, somebody comes and says, Chris Wyatt Africa said the convoy's over. You're a liar and a government shill. Like, dude, do you not see the flag behind me? What do you? I mean, if you're going to be a troll, at least have something to it. There's got to be a scintilla of truth to it. I mean, if you're going to call me a white supremacist, at least I'm white and I got a beard, so maybe there might be something to it. But I mean, you're going to call me a guy that said the convoy was over when I got a flag up showing the. Oh, come on, man. The trolls are entertaining, aren't they, Dumo?
Too entertaining. Oh, man, that's a nice story. That's
pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It was interesting. And then I interviewed the guy, Sasnak, the guy who's a trucker, is originally from Kansas, but he lives in Texas, and we're talking about industry. And he was very complimentary. So I started asking questions. He goes, man, you really know your stuff, don't you? And I'm like, well, that's kind of my job, man. I don't just get on the radio and start talking, or the air and start talking about stuff I know nothing about. And if I do, you'll find out that most of what I do is ask questions. If I don't know anything, I'll ask questions. But that almost never happens. I'm always talking.
Exactly.
Yikes! It is interesting to me that I've seen all these people talk about Ukraine, and they're all, in my view, getting what's going on somewhat wrong. Not that I'm going to get it right, because events change and plans change, but the reason why the Russians didn't advance, the reason why certain things are happening, I made these calls over a week ago, and now I know there's all these analysts on all the channels and all the print media. Oh, this is an operational halt. The Russians are trying to consolidate. Really? Where did I hear that before? That was a while ago. Yeah. My internet is 50 megabytes per second fiber. Why is it that only your channel is always buffering? John von Rensburg, I don't know why my channel would be buffering. But thank you for sharing that. Maybe it's a shadow thing. I don't know. But other people in South Africa don't seem to be having any problem at the moment. So my apologies for that. You can always watch it after the fact, which isn't probably not as entertaining, but you can watch it after the fact. So Dumo, we're going to run out of time here shortly. Any big topics we missed in South Africa that we should have talked about today?
Okay, so we covered load shedding.
Yeah. We covered Julius Malema, Professor Karen.
The price of goods and services are going up, and that may lead to another July riot. And the sucky thing about it was that the July riot started on my birthday. That was the worst thing. So I'm just worried.
That'll teach you to be born in July. We're also gonna want to know what your parents were doing in October. Just saying.
Exactly.
Or November. We know what they were up to.
So, yeah, man. So I'm really concerned about that. I think there might be another riot because now we're getting out of a pandemic. Repo rates going up, inflation caused by the low repo rates as well. And now we've got, there'll be disruptions in world trade because of the sanctions that are on Russia and so forth. And it's just really going to get out of control. And I just really think that I'm not saying we must brace for the worst, but I got a feeling that a lot of the socialist movements in South Africa are going to lick their lips because they're going to try to take advantage of this and try use it as a way to kind of instill their revolution, as I would say.
No, absolutely. I think that's a fair point. Someone just did mention something else here, and that's something I was going to cover when I got to this, but that's Batabile Dlamini was found guilty of perjury in her social grants case today. That's breaking news out of South Africa as well. The former former social development minister was found guilty of perjury in the case, lying under oath before the Constitutional Court. Ouch, 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 ouch. Well, I don't know if ladies are interred at Escort's beautiful new prison facility, but maybe she can take a room up with Jacob Zuma if we can ever get him, coax him back to his permanent residence, which is what it should be. It shouldn't be in Kandla. It should be Escort. I'm just saying. Yeah, so that's the news. And apparently SpaceX launched today. I missed that because I've been so busy. I'll go back and download it and do something on that. But cool. All right, so Dumo, thanks a lot, man. Again, we're going to rename this the Chris and Dumo, or Dumo and Chris Hour, instead of K Nako. I mean, the audience is showing up, but our co-hosts aren't showing up. Now, we won't pick on Koketso because he's been here. But that other dude, man, I've never talked to him, so I don't know if he just said it. By the way, in case you missed it, my button says Trump was right. Just in case you're curious about that. All right, Dumo, final thoughts. I got about 3 minutes. I got to be on with Ronaldo on Wednesdays with the Colonel since he moved up the time just to mess with my programming schedule. But any last thoughts, and then we'll wrap it up.
Right. Thanks for having me on, first of all.
Oh, and don't forget to mention Man Patria.
Yes. Thanks for having me on. It was really great. Guys, if you want to know more about me, I don't know if Chris and I not share, but rather have an overlapping audience. But if we have an overlap, you know where to find me. But for those of you who don't know, I have a website, manpatriot.com. You'll find it. Just type manpatriot.com, or you can just go and you'll find all the YouTube's channel stuff, everything, social media, name it, everything there. I'm also on Twitter as well, at Dumo Denga. So check me out there as well. I have a lot of funny tweets and serious ones at the same time. So please check that out. And yeah, man, just looking forward to the next Nako show, or the Chris or Dumo hour, how you want to call it. Really awesome. Really love being on here.
No, it's pretty cool. But I think, before we go, I'm going to come out now. I'm just like, I am Sky, just in case anybody was wondering. For those who don't know what that is, look it up. That was a pretty nasty situation that happened on Twitter in South Africa, in which somebody was unfairly targeted and doxxed and had their life heavily disrupted. But anyway, I started that I am Sky on one of those streams one day when people are like, you're trying to identify who Sky is. Well, I'm Sky. But I'm not. If you watch my Twitter feed, you'll find out that I only use it primarily to promote my videos. I don't even dare put anything on there. And I've never gotten in trouble on Twitter thus far, probably because that's the way I use it. But then after 17, 18 years having a Twitter account, I have 300 subscribers. So, it's not much. Anyway, that's it, folks. Dumo Denga and Chris Wyatt here on Nako, the Call of Africa for this week. Thanks for joining us. We haven't set a frequency for this yet. We discussed fortnightly. We'll work that out, folks, but it will be a periodic thing, if not fortnightly, when we get together. And we might have to shift the time, just depending. We just kind of settled on Wednesday for now. But as you can see, Koketso is too busy making money, he's busy making the donuts at this hour, so he's not available. And our other co-host, not to be mentioned, because he hasn't shown up yet, we'll see if we can get him on the program. Dumo, thanks a lot, brother. It's good seeing you. Have a lovely day and a safe week, all right?
You too. Thanks a lot.
Cool beans. I'll let you drop off, and then I'll close out.
Okay, cool.
All right, folks, that's it for this version of Nako, and there you go. He's a real pro. He knows how to just disappear. I don't have to sit there and put someone in the waiting room. I always have to do that with Rob. We've got to teach him how to do that. There will not be a Answer the Question session with Rob Hutchison tomorrow. He's traveling and not available for a session, so we'll just have news tomorrow. I'll be on the air in 2 minutes with Ronaldo Jos on Wednesdays with the Colonel, and we'll talk about, something about South Africa and about what's happening. Thanks a lot, folks. Be sure to smash the like button. Costs you nothing but a moment of your time. 69 viewers. Ronaldo would love that. Thank you so much. I'll probably do another stream this afternoon, abbreviated one about the news. I did do one showing people snowing earlier. That was just kind of fun, and it died on me. But anyway, we'll be back here later today, and also on WSMN tonight, the Common Sense Conservatives. Thanks a lot, folks. Take care of yourselves, and thank you for your patronage of this channel. I appreciate it an awful lot, more than you'll ever realize.